Welcome everyone to the Wheels Museum on a beautiful Saturday morning. So happy to be with you here today and have a kind of a surprise. It was a surprise to me. I went to the library the other day and I was looking at the cookbook section and I found the Harvey House cookbook. Now we all know, we've heard about Fred Harvey and we know there's many books have been written. I've never seen the Harvey House cookbook, and this book has some great surprises in it. So I want to tell you a little bit about the story. So in 1850, Fred Harvey came from London to New York. He was 15 years old. He had $10 in his pocket. He started working in various restaurants around the country, and it came to him, he realized that the situation of food on the trains and in the West was abominable. It was very likely if you were on the train that you might be eating the food that the last guy left behind, because it was such a mess. It was so busy all the time. They give you this gray rotten meat. They had hardly any fruits and vegetables, and whatever was left over from the last guy, they weren't going to throw it away. So when you got on the train, they'd give it to you. So it was a terrible situation with all kinds of fighting, and I'm going to show you some pictures of what it looked like in those days and the terror. And he got the idea that he was going to, quote, civilize the West. And he did civilize the West. He had about 60 different hotels and restaurants eventually, including in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the magnificent Alvarado Hotel. If you come to Wheels Museum, you'll see a beautiful model of it. You'll see the actual dishes and the silver that were used there. You'll see the uniforms that the ladies wore. So who were the ladies? How did he get workers to come here? Well, they hired men, of course, because they didn't think women could do much of anything. And the men who were supposed to be the waiters would fight with each other. All kinds of fighting and drinking and trouble, and it wouldn't work out. On Monday morning when they had to come to work, they're all bruised up and bloody. It wasn't the image that Fred Harvey wanted to portray for the West. So they got the idea, maybe we could hire some young women. They tried to do that. They started sending out advertisements in the East, and it had to be a very moral woman, beautiful woman, educated young woman, and they got 100,000 girls eventually, and young women, to come out to the West to work in these restaurants. So if you come to Wheels Museum and you've heard me give this talk, and you walk in here and you say, hey Leba, I know how many women came to the West to work, I will give you a free t-shirt. So, because I think it's very impressive how many people came out here. They put the girls in a black apron because they didn't want to show anything that was revealing. It was very demure in every way. They were highly trained, and they were paid a huge amount of money to come here, $17 a month. But in addition to the $1,700 a month, they did get room and board, and they made friends, and of course, they married the men of the West, and they became wonderful citizens for our society. Many of them became church ladies and school teachers and other professions. And so even now when we have Wheels Museum, people come in and they say, well, my grandmother started out as a Harvey girl. So it's a very lofty profession. They were all friends, and it was a wonderful story. You've probably seen the Judy Garland movie about the Harvey girls and read many books about the Harvey girls. What I love about this cookbook is it has recipes, including ones from Albuquerque. And I've been trying to look up the men who created these recipes. Of course, they're not here anymore, but it's interesting to me to see the names of these men. So I want to tell you one I got quite a kick out of. It's so interesting that the food that he offered was magnificent. If you came to a Harvey house, you could eat oysters, you could eat duck, you could eat tongue, you could eat the finest beef, the finest cakes, the finest vegetables. Before that, they didn't really have fruits and vegetables here, but now you could. And the price of a dinner was 75 cents. And it was absolutely out of this world. I mean, how many of us have ever eaten oysters now? And very modern food, not old-fashioned kinds of food, but in the recipe book, many things that I read are just exactly like we make them now, even though it was 100 years ago. So here's one of my favorite ones. It was made by Charles Zulig, who was the chef at the Alvarado Hotel in Albuquerque. Cold vichyssoise cream. Now, how many of us have had cold vichyssoise cream? But here's what you do. I'm going to give you the recipe. 4 medium potatoes, peeled and sliced thin, 1/4 cup of onions, finely chopped, 1/2 cup of butter, 2 cups of chicken stock, 4 leeks. I mean, who would think they would have leeks in those? 2 stalks of celery, 4 sprigs of parsley, salt and pepper, nutmeg, and a pint of heavy sweet cream scalded, and 2 bay leaves. So it's pretty fancy that they would have these ingredients. He brought ingredients in from all over America. One of the most interesting things to me that I never knew, guess where the milk for the Fred Harvey Company was produced? Las Vegas, New Mexico. And they had a very beautiful logo for that. And that's where, and I'm going to show you a picture of that. It was called Pasteurized and Bottled by Fred Harvey, Grade A Milk, Las Vegas, New Mexico. They had a huge dairy there that supplied all the milk for the Fred Harvey Company, which was a tremendous amount of work. They had veal piccata, they had veal bourguignon. It was so classy. And then they later decided that they were going to serve on the trains as well. And that was a kind of an argument because other people who had restaurants didn't want him to serve on the train, but he did serve on the train. And we have a t-shirt that says they could serve a 4-course meal in 30 minutes. So Fred Harvey was famous for speed and accuracy and quality and classiness. And it was a magnificent lift for our country. Here's one, chicken enchiladas from Las Vegas, New Mexico. And so the classic foods that we have in New Mexico became famous all over the country because of Fred Harvey. And he also had an Indian goods stores and curio stores. There are several hotels around New Mexico that were Fred Harvey hotels. I hope everybody listening has been to the Montezuma Hotel up in Las Vegas. Such a magnificent place. There's the Castaneda and the La Posada up in Las Vegas. And the Plaza Hotel and the Castaneda Hotel. Everybody should see them in Las Vegas. And if you get a chance to go to Winslow, Arizona, go a little farther to La Posada. That is really, really a treat and a wonderful, wonderful place to see. So there are still some standing. Sadly, our Alvarado was torn down about 1970. And I think one of the reasons we were able to save the rail yard is because it hurt so many people. There's hardly a day that goes by that somebody doesn't say, I miss the Alvarado Hotel. Theodore Roosevelt was there, all the political people, the movie stars, and when we have our exhibit here, which is in one of our rooms, people always ask us, what is it and what was the importance? But we call the Alvarado Hotel the jewel of the railroad era. So this is the food that was served in there, and so interesting about that. This talks about El Tovar, and then, as I mentioned, they serve food in the railroad cars, and they call that restaurants on wheels. So we're the Wheels Museum, and that's very appropriate to us. And I'm just so impressed as I look here through poached eggs a la reine harlequin. Has about 20 ingredients. So, I think there's a tendency to think of the old days as kind of simple and boring, but when Fred Harvey came along, he really uplifted our society with food, with culture, and did wonderful things. So here's the question. What happened? Why did a lot of these places fail? Why were a lot of them torn down? What happened in this world that this huge success that people loved, and the businessmen all came there for their meetings, and the movie stars came there? El Rancho Hotel in Gallup. I grew up sort of in El Rancho Hotel in Gallup. Went there a lot. But here's what happened. The airplane. The airplane came to our world, and now it didn't take so long to go across the country, days and days and days and days. You could go in a few hours across the country, and there was not the need for the trains. There was not the need for the restaurants next to the trains and the hotel to keep people there while they waited to get on the next train. So this is a part of technology and what has happened to our world, that the airplane took over and many of these hotels failed. At the same time, there is a great nostalgia for them and sentiment for them. So that's why some have been able to come back and people love them, and they're now supporting them. I wanted to show you a little bit related to this, not absolutely exactly, but we're getting donations almost every day, a fascinating photograph. And we have a photograph here of Albuquerque High School in 1901 on a field trip with the buggies. And I think it's related to this. It's about the time that Fred Harvey was really starting to go strong, but it shows you what our locale was like at that time in comparison to what he was bringing to our world. Also, someone has just given us a lot of pictures before 1910 of the Grand Canyon, El Tovar, and other places, including Theodore Roosevelt. So I'm going to show you some wonderful pictures that were taken before 1910, 114 years ago. of what was going on at the Grand Canyon El Tovar Hotel, which was beautiful even at that time. And we were there recently, and it's a wonderful place to eat and have fun. So I hope you'll go to these places. I hope you'll come to Wheels Museum to see what we're doing here to save our history and our culture. And we're open Monday through Thursday mornings 9 to 12 and Saturdays and Sundays 9 to 2. So please come and see it. We have some wonderful events coming up. On the 24th of August, I hope you'll be here because it's going to be very interesting. 11 o'clock, a lady named Christy Hines is going to sing. It's going to be jazzy. Most of the things we do are kind of on the western side, but she is a different kind of a singer, and I think you're going to really, really love hearing her. And also, on the 31st, I'm very excited because John Taylor, who spoke to us the other day about the redevelopment of the steam locomotive, 2926, is going to speak about Jack Delano, who has done magnificent photographs about the railroad and about the history of the West. And he's a great, fun speaker. There's no charge for that one. Christy Hines is $10. But John Taylor's speaking at 10 o'clock in the morning on the 31st at Wheels Museum, and it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful event. So I hope you'll come and hear that. On Saturday the 7th, we have Michael Jacobs, who's a world-famous movie photographer and has done a wonderful film, and they're going to come and show a movie. I don't have the time for that yet, but that's going to be on the 7th of September. A very big, wonderful thing is happening on September 28th and 29th. It's New Mexico Railroad Days. So we're inviting everybody to come from 9 to 2, when we may stay later if it's busy, to see the steam locomotive. The 2926 steam locomotive is coming here, which is a very rare thing, and it's going to be here. This is its home, and we will have Wheels Museum open, and we'll have all kinds of fun things for people to do and see and tour the museum. Of course, there's no charge for that, and I hope that you'll come to New Mexico Railroad Day, September 28th and 29th. If you have any questions about any of this, or you want to talk to me about anything, or have ideas, or have donations, we're at 505-243-6269. We're located at 1100 South 2nd on the south end of the rail yard. We have about 10,000 exhibit items, and our biggest problem, I'll just tell you, children sometimes cry when they have to leave. It's a lot of fun here, and they learn a lot. We do field trips, we do church groups, we do corporate groups. We work with many organizations, and so I hope you'll join us. We're a nonprofit. Thank you.